What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Brook. Welcome back to another Crafted Magazine video. Today I'm going to show you how to build this beer flight paddle. Stay tuned. So I had this piece of old redwood my dad gave me recently. In a previous life, this redwood served as fencing for one of my dad's neighbors about 20 years ago, so I had no idea what the wood would look like beneath all of that wear. So I started by milling it up on the planer and jointer to remove all the aged faces of the wood and get it square on four sides, and this revealed some beautiful wood underneath. After the piece was squared up, I ripped 3/4 inch strips on the table saw. The width you rip your strips at will depend on the size of your piece. I wanted to squeeze out as many strips as I could from this one piece. So after ripping the redwood, I took some scraps of hard maple and did the same, ripping them into 3/4 inch strips. Once I felt like I had enough strips, I started to arrange them and really liked the way they looked. The contrast of the colors between the redwood and maple looks great. So next I cut off the ends of the redwood, which also showed some of that age, and after cleaning up the ends, I set my miter saw stop block to 14.5 inches and cut pieces from the strips. Stop block on the miter saw really helps with this. I just kept cutting 14.5 inch pieces until I ran out of strips. I arranged the strips in the order I wanted them to be in the final pieces and then glued them up. This style of parallel bar clamp really helps on this kind of glue up. It keeps the bottom flat so you don't lose a lot of material to flattening after the glue up. Also, it helps to wipe away the excess glue with a wet paper towel here, since it'll be a lot more difficult to remove the glue once it's dried. After the glue dried, I removed the clamps and ran the bottom over the jointer, taking just a touch of material off, just enough to get it perfectly flat. After that, I ran the piece through the planer with the flat surface down, which served as the reference surface. You don't really need to worry about squaring up the edges and ends, as those will be removed at the router table. Next, I worked on making the template for the flight paddles. I want to be able to make these to sell at local craft fairs and on my website, and a template allows me to make them over and over again efficiently. If you only want to make one flight paddle, you could do this same process but just have the layout lines directly on the workpiece. So I measured in 3/4 inch from each long edge and 4 inches from the end and marked those lines. Those lines represent where I'll remove the material for the handle. I also drew a curve on each side connecting those lines to the edge. After that, I marked the center line of the template and then did some math to figure out the proper spacing for the holes for the flight glasses. I'm using a 2-inch Forstner bit for the holes, and I had roughly 10 inches from the end of the handle to the end of the paddle. That left me with 2 inches total for spacing between the glasses, and I needed 5 spaces, 1 between each glass and 1 on each end. 2 inches divided by 5 is roughly 3/8 of an inch, so that's what I used as spacing between the glasses. I marked 3/8 of an inch from the handle, then added 2 inches for a glass, then added another 3/8 of an inch and another 2 inches, and so on. I marked the center of each of the 2-inch areas and drew that line across the paddle, and where the center line of the paddle and the center line of the 2-inch area met is where I needed to drill my holes as markers for the Forstner bit. After getting all my holes marked, I went to the drill press and drilled some small holes. These are just reference holes so that you can transfer the hole placement to the workpiece so you don't have to do all this layout work over and over again on every paddle. Next, I went to the bandsaw and removed the bulk of the waste from the handle cutouts. After that, I went to the oscillating spindle sander / belt sander and sanded to my lines. I also rounded all the sharp corners. Basically, this is where you'll finalize the shape of your paddle so you can do whatever you like here. After finalizing my shape, I transferred the handle lines to the workpiece and cut away the excess waste to the bandsaw. I then taped the template to the workpiece using carpet tape and used a 3/4 inch template bit to remove the waste. Next, I drilled the holes for the flight glasses using a 2-inch Forstner bit. I set the depth of my hole to about 1/4 inch, and then I rounded over the edges of the paddle using an 1/8 inch radius roundover bit, and finally drilled the hole in the handle, which will be used to hang the paddle. I then cleaned up the holes from the Forstner bit with some 120 grit sandpaper. I might try to find a better, cleaner way to create these holes, as the Forstner bit left a lot of cleanup for me. The bit was brand new, so I think I might just need to experiment with the RPM on the drill press. After cleaning up the holes, I sanded the entire piece using 220 grit sandpaper. I finished the handle with spray lacquer, sanding with 320 grit sandpaper between coats. On the first coat, I applied finish with the handle sitting on the workbench. Then I realized I could stick a coat hanger through the hole in the handle and have easy access to all sides of the paddle. I applied 3 coats in total, sanding with 320 grit paper between each coat, and it was done. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed that project. It's perfect if you got some scrap hardwoods lying around. This is also a great item if you want to sell some stuff at like craft fairs or things like that. You can build it essentially for free. I mean, really, if you've got the wood already around, the only cost you have is the finish, the glue, and your time. And you can usually get 60 to 80 bucks for something like this at a craft fair. Definitely give it a shot. It's a lot of fun to build, and once you get a template made, you can really crank them out. I made 4 of these, and even with having to build the template, it only took me probably 4 or 5 hours, not including the time it took for the glue to dry. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. I'm putting out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, with Tuesday being a project video and Thursday being a weekly Maker Roundup video. If you liked this video, please like it and comment. It really helps us out. And if you like what we're doing, please consider supporting us on Patreon. That is the #1 way to support us and keep these videos coming. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching and happy building.